Chapter 7. The cold grip of the night still clings to Mercantile as Rod awakens from a restless sleep. Eagerness keeps the soothing dreams at bay. As much as he enjoys his trips home to Mercantile, it's the loving embrace of his mistress, the Wasteland, that he truly longs for. The desolate land is rife with death around every corner, and yet he feels a sense of guilt, as though he doesn't deserve any kind of happiness. This weight will only lift when he's moving. Crawling out of his wooden twin bed, he moves to the floor and begins doing his morning routine of push-ups and crunches. Rod needs his muscles awake and active. After 30 minutes of the exhaustive workout, he heads to the bathroom to freshen up. Tippin was kind enough to leave him new clothes earlier in the evening. He slips on the pair of denim jeans, then a white cotton t-shirt, followed by socks and his leather boots. Quite awake now, Rod walks to a carved oak closet to the left of his bed. Opening it reveals his personal belongings. He grabs a duffel bag and places it on the corner table. One by one, he reclaims the equipment. First and foremost are his twin 1911 .45 caliber pistols nestled in their leather holster. Unraveling the belt, Rod swings it around his waist, pulling the worn brown leather tightly before fastening the buckle. The holsters grip his thighs as he ties the leather laces above his knees. He pulls each pistol from its slumber and surveys them for any technical issues. The tips and triggers shine with smooth metal, and the black ridged grips display a small 4-leaf clover, a symbol of his past and present. He releases the magazines and verifies that they are filled. Popping the magazine back in, he slides the first round into the chamber, then nestles each gun back into its home. His belt is lined with small leather compartments. He feels each pouch with a quick review, knowing each artifact by the sensation of touch. He makes a mental note to himself. His hands dive back into the bag of tricks. Another brown leather harness is retrieved. It is a short sword sheathed and attached to shoulder straps. He swings it around his shoulder blades. The blade lays across the entirety of his back, with the hilt just above his right hip. Moving his right hand and gripping the hilt, he pulls out the smooth silver sword. The handle wraps in hard, dark leather, with a very small handguard. Light reflects across the silver weapon as the hunter runs his left thumb over the blade, testing its sharpness. He presses a small trigger at the base of the hilt, extending the rest of the blade. Well, looks like he was able to tighten the trigger mechanism. Rod surveys the 13-inch blade for any deformities. Content with the workmanship, the trigger is pressed again, and the blade retracts back to the size of a long knife. He slides it into the sheath. The final pieces are his brown scarf and black leather jacket with an inline cotton hood. He folds the scarf several times, then wraps it around his neck. The cloth is primarily used as a filter during dust storms in the Wasteland. Next, he slips on his form-fitting leather jacket. The final remains in the bag are the essentials: ammo, extra magazines, rations, and his bedroll. The hunter makes his way to the door and, as he opens it, takes one last look at the room. It was exactly how he found it upon arrival. He takes a deep breath and walks through the door, closing it behind him. The twilight of darkness still colors the sky as Rod walks to the old wooden shed behind the town hall. He opens the shed doors, then pulls the bulb chain dangling just inside. Light explodes across the shed, revealing the motorcycle, which is still covered, and a couple of small crates. Walking over to the crates and kneeling down, he spots a folded piece of paper on top.
Here's part of the supplies from your contract. More will be provided on your return home. Be safe, my friend. T.
He expresses a small smirk and places the letter back into the crate. He looks through the contents and puts what he needs into Stacy's saddlebags. Once preparations are complete, Rod grabs the bike and pushes it out of the shed. He decides to walk the bike up to the mountain exit to avoid waking any mercantile citizens. It's a cool, peaceful walk up the road to the exit. It allows his muscles to loosen up even more for the journey ahead. 30 minutes or so pass by when he reaches the tunnel through the mountain. He's greeted by 2 merchants with rifles strapped over their shoulders, eyes glaring through their tan shimogs. "Good morning, No Leaf Clover, sir. Are you ready to depart?" Rod nods while propping the bike up. The merchant waves to another right above them on a balcony. The merchant on the balcony nods to the other below. He climbs up a 30-foot ladder to a steel platform. He disappears from Rod's view into a bunker burrowed into the mountain. The bunker is another remnant of the ancients, a self-contained shelter used for monitoring events outside the mountain range. This shelter and village are all designed as a sanctuary for nuclear fallout. The ancient people hid in the underground shelter near the bay for several years, and when deemed safe, ventured out and tried to repopulate civilization. However, things are far worse than they ever could have anticipated. A head pops out from the bunker and waves to the merchant next to Rod. He signals and turns. "The coast is clear, sir. You may leave." Rod straddles Stacy and fires her up. The calm of the early morning is broken by the steady purr of the motorcycle. "Good luck, sir." The merchant salutes. Rod replies with a half-cocked salute over his brow, then kicks the bike into gear. It speeds through the tunnel, exiting in a burst of exhaust and fumes out of the womb of the mountain. Racing down the narrow path, Rod retraces his route back to the hidden entrance. He hits the brakes and cuts left, sliding up to a small incline of earth. A cloud of dirt sprays out ahead of him. As the dust settles, Rod studies the bleak landscape. The sun pokes its head out over the horizon, uncovering a barren world stretching out for miles. Rod pulls a tiny device from the inside of his jacket pocket, a small, barely hanging to life music player with headphones wrapped around it. He untangles the earbuds and puts them into each ear. Rod powers up the device and waits a moment. The panel is cracked, making it impossible to view the text on the digital display. He hits the next button while nodding his head with each press, counting as he passes each track blindly. His thumb stops as he waits for the song to play. Sunlight creeps over the horizon as the guitars slowly start to vibrate his ears. Drums enter with a steady beat. All instruments are in complete musical harmony as Orion by Metallica fills his head. He grips the handlebars and revs the engine, heading down the dirt incline. He races onto the natural dirt highway with the mountain range to his right. The southeastern region, where Mercantile is located, is mostly uninhabited. It will be a week or so before Rod reaches Midland. The earth is flat and dry for the most part, making for an easy ride. Its only view is the grand mountain chain to the east. Keeping the mountains to his right guides him through the expanse. Hours pass as he drives through the brown-color land. It's unobtrusive here, giving Rod time to just ride. All thought lost to the barren road. These are the moments where he feels at peace. The natural road ahead once again becomes his bride. The rider looks to the location of the sun, his only clock. Hitting mid-afternoon, the blistering sun scorches directly above Rod. He continues his pace, only stopping once to piss and eat a ration consisting of dry salted meat and hard chunks of dandelion bread. To the west, off into the distance, he can see dust bowls dancing wildly, ever twisting, ever turning with its partner, locked in an eternal struggle for dominance over the other. The winds blow sporadic gusts from time to time. It acts like it has a mind of its own, passing through the stages of a grieving child for its dying Mother Earth, wild with pain and grief. Calm for the moments of clarity, and the occasional steady gust, letting her know that she will always be loved and remembered. In the quieter moments, the painful moans of the world are heard ever so slightly, working to heal itself from ethereal scars. Time passes. The sun moves across the blue sky, with the clouds trailing behind, trying to keep up. Rod speeds to an imposing monolith 40 or so feet high. The old concrete T-shaped object is leaning closer to the ground with each passing year. Its rebar skeleton protrudes through its decayed concrete skin. Once it was an overpass that carried the ancient people on their gasoline-fueled vehicles. Now it's just a landmark, guiding travelers toward Midland. Midland is one of the last cities in the known world, and Rod's first stop on his way to Orgrimdir. The hunter breaks in the monolith's shadow to take a small hiatus, hiding from the death rays of the sun. Stopping the bike, he climbs off and reaches for his canteen. He unscrews the top and takes several sips. Rod checks his surroundings. Decayed pieces of the highway scatter the earth all around. Smaller chunks trail off to the west. Leaning on the concrete column, he takes another drink of water. Something tickles his hand. Looking down, he spots a small fly rubbing its two tiny arms together. A faint gust blows, bringing with it the stench of rotting flesh. Rod lowers the canteen and screws the cap back on. Gently, he moves to the bike, kicking the stand up and pushing it next to the wall. The smell is more prominent now, so foul that it gives weight to the air around him. Rod slows his breathing down and listens to his surroundings. The rattle of chains echoes near the cliff ahead. He creeps to the cliff's edge with one hand gripping a holstered 1911. The clanging chains are just below him. He peers over the edge briefly. In those seconds, he receives all the information he needs. Below him are a dozen or so mutants, sluggishly walking in a row. These mutants are towering in height. Many are draped in dark, blood-stained tunics, only covering from chest to crotch. Their bare feet are coated in quite a few layers of mud. Some of them carry crude melee weapons, clubs or spears fastened together with serrated metal. A smaller mutant in the middle of the caravan is hauling a greasy leather sack over his shoulder. It squeals and thrusts about. Must be an animal, Rod thinks to himself. The animal continues battling its leather confines. Tired of the struggle, the mutant drops the sack on the ground. He belligerently kicks the sack until the shrieks subside. The creature lifts the bag back on its shoulder to continue the march. Rod, lying with his back to the ground, listens to the mutants like a bat using sonar. The sounds are giving him a mental projection of their positions. Taking slower breaths, he hears every bit of noise the gray-skinned atrocities emit. A breeze blows at the most inopportune time in the general direction of the mutant caravan. The one leading the pack stops, then tilts his head up to catch a whiff. He puts his dry, cracked hand in the air. The long fingers curl into the palm. The remaining herd notice and stop. An eerie stillness blankets the vicinity, and Rod loses the image. The stagnant foreboding is broken with a snarl that could only pass as communication between the monstrous beings. 4 of the mutants contort their pelvises and hind legs, dropping on all fours and moving closer to the cliff like a pack of wolves. Each one lifts their head upward, sniffing for their prey. Rod senses their distress and reaches for both guns. The gruff breathing from one of the pack is closing in on his location. The putrid smell of dead flesh grows even worse. Rod removes the pistols from their slumber and cocks both hammers. Warm fluid drips on Rod's forehead and runs down his left cheek. The thick brown gelatin stinks of vomit. Looking up, he gazes into the tar-smeared teeth of the mutant. The deformed canine lengthens its tongue out toward Rod, hoping to snag a taste of the human morsel. The breath from the creature is unbearable. An explosive pop echoes from the ledge. Blood bursts out the back of the creature's head. The force from the bullet flings the creature off the cliff, colliding with the herd, knocking them to the ground. Without hesitation, Rod jumps to his feet. Two mutants leap up to the edge with blood-frenzied ferocity, striking the ground where Rod's head lay mere moments ago. With lightning reflexes, Rod leaps several feet forward, landing into a roll and turning around, looking back at the two crazed beasts. He fires several shots from both guns, hitting their targets with deadly precision. Putrid flesh and bone explode off their bodies. The bits rain down on the ground in bloody puddles. Yelps echo from both wounded beasts. Two more shots fired, hitting each target in the temple. The bodies fall to the dusty earth. In the heat of the action, another mutant climbed the ledge. It sprints around the side of the concrete column, hoping to take its prey by surprise. Rod hits the ground as the final shots meet their mark. He spies the advancing shadow from the right. He holsters his guns and jumps up, twisting his body counterclockwise as the mutant misses its attack. The creature hits the ground. A dirt cloud rises around it. Digging its contorted hind legs into the earth, the beast prepares to charge again. Its long tongue dances from side to side as the mutant pants. Frothing at the mouth, the snarling beast speaks incoherently to Rod. The shrill verbal onslaught rings in Rod's ears. No time to think, just act. He runs toward the mocking mutant. The beast spots Rod's advance and lets out a howl. Plummeting forward toward his prey, Rod positions his right arm behind him. Both combatants are in full-on collision toward each other. The mutant leaps off the ground with arms lunging forward. Rod retrieves his silver sword. The sunlight reflects off it, blinding the beast and giving Rod enough time to press the trigger and extend the blade. Swinging across his body as the beast flies past, the hunter slices the mutant's gut open. Crashing into the ground, the mutant's entrails gush out. Rancid-smelling organs lay sprawled several feet from the fallen beast. Rod walks over to the still convulsing mutant and slices the head clean off. He kneels over to retrieve the head, then walks back to the ledge. Looking down at the remaining mutants cowering together, he flings the head of their chieftain in front of them. With the alpha mutant slain, all that remains are the females and adolescent males. "Get out of here!" Rod points out to the Wasteland. The words fall on deaf ears. Confused, the mutants cower closer together. He pulls a gun out, firing 2 shots into the air. Frantically, the fearful beasts flee, taking off toward the mountain. Rod holsters the gun and walks back to the leader's corpse. He uses the tunic to wipe the blood from the blade. Sheathing it, Rod gazes up at the sun. Judging the time of day, the hunter speaks to the headless corpse. "Well, I better burn you and your buddies before more alphas pick up your scent." He grabs the ankle and drags the body to the ledge and tosses it over. Rod collects each carcass, tossing them next to their fallen chieftain. As he flings the last bit of entrails into the corpse mound, the hunter tilts his head down in a quick prayer. He retrieves a small incendiary grenade from a belt pouch, pulls the pin, and slings it into the mound. The bodies are engulfed in the purifying blaze. He takes a couple steps back and lights up a cigarette. Eyeing the sky one more time, he decides to set up camp for the night at the base of the dilapidated column. Night covers the land. The campfire dances ominously with the cool breeze. Rod finishes his dinner before lighting another cigarette. He sits back on the bedroll and leans against the column. The drowsy hunter exhales a cloud of smoke over the blaze. Whispers are all around him. Evil whispers, speaking unthinkable acts. The light from the camp acts as a force field from the evils dwelling within the darkness. Demonic growls echo between the dark whispers. Rod takes another drag, entranced with the wild flame. He ignores the darkness, losing himself to old memories. Memories of his friends. No, his family. They may not be blood, but they're the closest thing to family. "It's really been 2 years?" Rod asks the flame. It answers with a crackle and pop of the burning kindling. The smell of scorched wood deepens the hunter's trance. He can't help but replay the last conversation he had with the brothers Grimm, mostly toward the eldest, Slade. It was harsh and cruel, blaming Slade for their leader's death. It was their last contract as a family. The loss of their leader and mentor was too grueling to bear, each person's guilt constricting them from the inside. The group called it a hiatus, a time for grieving. Little did each one know it would be so long. Deep down, Rod knew. They each ran from the grief, burying themselves in work, hoping that each demon slain or person saved would be redemption. His thoughts drift to Talun's words. The bell tower. Why the bell tower? Rod knew Gabriel and Slade faced this bell tower beast years prior to their meeting. They barely escaped with their lives the first time. Why would they go back? And as he asked himself this question, the answer immediately snapped into his mind. Redemption. The brothers hoped to find redemption in this contract. Maybe, just maybe, it will be the one that releases the hold on them. That feeling that plagues you constantly, hoping that it will somehow change the outcome of the past, that once it's complete, that old friend will be standing right there with a smile and warm embrace, as if to say, it was all a test that you passed. A calm voice from the deepest recesses of his mind interrupts the campfire daydreaming. The sounds of hell knocking right outside your door. It's somewhat euphoric, an idyllic sensation. Rod sits up. You seem rather cheery. What? Killing mutants doesn't quench your bloodlust? You're driven to kill. God, it excites the adrenaline, gets that blood pumping through those demon-killing veins. How does it feel? How did what feel? Rod questions. Giving in at the sanitarium. I felt you calling me. The Dark One answers playfully. You know the answer, Rod says, flicking the cigarette butt into the fire. That's not me anymore. I'm not giving in, you're taking over. Of course it's you. It always has been, and it always will. I don't control you or that urge to kill. Fight it all you want, but you'll always give in. The horrendous growls continue in the darkness around the camp. They are ready to feed on you once the fire goes out. We can't let them. We have much to do. Rod leans over, grabbing a handful of kindling and tosses it into the fire. The shielding light of the flame expands its radius around the camp, pushing the darkness back. So, why did you spare the mutants? They no longer posed any threat. That's bullshit, the Dark One snarls in agitation. They have your scent. Adolescent males will mature. They will come for you. They still have a right to be here. The mutants have a right to exist. They are godless abominations. Killing them would have been the punishment they deserve. If and when that day comes, I will deal with it. A whimsical laugh fills his mind. So be it then. Rod receives a slight break from the dark voice. However, its tone shifts to playfulness again. Do you mean to go through with this plan? Traveling to the walled city for this tournament? Yes. I disagree. You shouldn't be anywhere near Orgrim, dear. You've said it yourself many times. We don't involve ourselves in political affairs, senseless trivialities amongst the mortals, maiming and killing each other for control. I have to say it is quite amusing to watch, though.
And how are demons any different? Or angels, for that matter? Everyone is vying for control over the other. Why should humans be any different? Rod said sternly.
Because humans are nothing more than energy for the ethereal plane. It's like a child watching an ant farm. The bustling and scurrying about for the queen, the one in power. Their existence is nothing more than to provide for the ones with power, or sustenance for the more enlightened entities.
To some extent, the hunter agrees with the Dark One. Humans are fighting for power when they should be working together toward a better life for all. But maybe humans weren't designed this way. Maybe the Dark One is correct. Maybe humans were designed to be nothing more than workers for a more enlightened race. But I've never seen a demon do anything out of selflessness, Rod rebuts. I've seen a man give up everything he owns for the sake of another.
But was it truly out of selflessness? Many times they've convinced themselves and others that if they do well, they will be accepted into paradise. All other sins will be forgiven.
The Dark One laughs before finishing.
Oh, if only they knew the truth. Silly little whimsical ants.
Either way, this is not a debate. We're going to the walled city to hear this resistance out.
Fine, but remember this. We all have pivotal decisions in our lives. These decisions alter our current path in many ways. I feel this path you're heading on is leading down a dark road.
Rod smirks at the comment. I don't think it will get any darker than it is now.
You have no idea.
As swiftly as it appeared, the dark voice evaporates back into the dormant part of Rod's mind, a deep recess he rarely wants to visit. The snarl of the darkness takes hold of his senses again as he grabs a small leather pouch next to him. He opens the top and takes a pinch of ground herb, tossing it into the orange and yellow flame. The flash shoots into the sky, changing from yellow to bright green. The light briefly reveals the surrounding darkness, including the many red eyes dancing in the veil and the bodies connected to them. An orgy of demonic beings moves around the perimeter, with many in an entrancing dance, the larger shadows devouring the smaller ones. It's a brief look into the schism of another dimension, a darker reality that would send the strongest of men into vivid madness. One of the demons stands out from the rest, a creature with 2 carved horns bulging from its wide forehead. The large, muscular beast is on all fours, eyes locked on Rod. Black fur covers its massive body. The demon sways in the haze of the rift. The beast growls and speaks a demonic language, displaying its massive canine teeth while drooling obsessively. It's stomping and pushing back the lesser demons in its way. A small demon makes the grave mistake of moving in front of the colossal beast. Without hesitation, the dark-haired behemoth grabs the intruding demon with its hand, and in a swift motion, bites the head off and flings the corpse behind him. A pack of demons in the background indulge in the carcass. As the green light diminishes, the demons vanish back into the dark abyss. Rod slides down the bedroll and heads off to sleep. The sounds of hell leave his ears as the hunter loses all consciousness to his dark dreams.